So one thing I want to add to this is a system of velocity. So something kind of like a wind coming from the rotor blades. Okay, so kind of a column of air and turbulence below this. So to do that, I'm just going to hide all these because we don't need to be visualizing everything. Okay, and then dive inside the smoke source here, right? And so where we isolate the body here, I'm going to pull this over. There we go. Grab that, and I'm going to time shift this to the first frame. By first frame, I mean -25, not frame 1. Okay, and then I'm going to drop. So we've basically just got a some points. If I set this to smooth wired, you know, these. All we have here is points in space moving around. We don't have a sense of, you know, up or down or left or right, you know, orientation basically with this geometry. And we need that because, you know, I'm going to drop a tube here and kind of stick it onto this helicopter. And I want the tube to move around following this helicopter. But it needs to follow when the helicopter turns and so forth. So if we use, say, something called a extract transform, and then plug this into the first port and this into the second, and that will give us, if we visualize that, we just got 1 point, and then here we got this orient attribute and pivot, okay, which is the location of the center there. So if we visualize that, the orients, you can see there now, if I scrub through this, you can see it moving if you find it, and that will move along with the geometry and give us an orient of kind of up and down, left and right, and so forth. Okay, X, Y, and Z. So let's go back here. I'm going to take this orient, and we're going to, as I said, stick a tube to it, right? So I'm going to drop a tube here. Okay, just like that. Let me kind of, camera's looking a bit weird. There we go. So yeah, I'm going to drop a tube. I want end caps on that, right? I'm going to leave the scale as it is, like this. Let's change it to polygons. It's in the middle right now, that's why we can't see it over there. But it'll move over in a moment. Then I'm going to drop a transform, and you know, I want to position it around this helicopter, and I could do that just by eye, or with these with the gizmo, or if I right click on it, right, so come over to the center, right click, go to align handle, and go to start orientation picking, and then you see this kind of orange dot under my cursor. I can use that to orient the object based on something else. And now, since I've got this templated, I can use that. So I'm going to come here and click on this one at the bottom, this point here, which will orient, as you can see, my cylinder to the helicopter, just like that. Okay, so that drops it, you know, in the correct position. Now I'm going to scale it up to about 6. Okay, and make it a bit taller, like that. And then let me just set this to wireframe ghost so I can see, and then just kind of drop it down to something like that. Right, so it's grabbing the front there, and maybe move it back a little bit. Let's see, something like that. Okay, so that's great. So it's in the correct position on the first frame, right? But as soon as we start moving along, the helicopter's going to move there, and obviously this tube, you know, there's no keyframes or anything here. So we use this information to move this. I'm going to drop a transform pieces, which we commonly use with kind of RBD simulations. So this will take a point, a template point, and the geometry that you want to move, and transform it, right? So now you can see this tube will follow the helicopter around wherever it goes and be aligned correctly to it. Brilliant. So let's turn that off, go back to the first frame. And so to make velocity from this, I'm gonna, fill it with points. So and then add some velocity to those points. So I'm going to do a points from volume. Where are you? Points from volume, there. Okay, drop that. And set this to, yeah, so you can see that's full of points now in a grid formation. We don't need so many points. 0.25 will be enough. Jitter scale, set this to 10 so that they're not kind of aligned perfectly like that. Right, so that's fine. And then I'm going to add some, so right now they shouldn't have any velocity attribute, no. So we'll add a point velocity to this, just like we used on the other source, right? And we can visualize it, turn the velocity on. There's nothing there yet. So I'm going to add some velocity to this, pointing down, so minus 7.5. There we go. So we got something. I think we skip forward a few frames. We should get something a bit different. There we go. So you can see we've got something based on the kind of animation as well. Excuse me. And if that's too much, you know, if it's too big and hard to work out, you can just bring it down here, the scale. Yeah, it's kind of massive. Set that to, I don't know, 0.05. Spacebar and H to look at it again. Okay, and then I'm going to add some curl noise as usual. The scale, let's push it up to 10. With swirl size, bring it down a bit. Okay, it's kind of hard to see with so much, you know, there's a lot, because there's so many points basically. There's, you know, it's just kind of a block of yellow, but that's fine. Maybe add some more turbulence to this. And that should be good. So let's drop a null. That's our velocity ready to go. Out. Let me call this tail vel, because we might have velocities for other simulations also. Tail vel. Okay, I'm going to turn this visualizer off because it's annoying. Go back to the first frame and then jump back into our simulation. Okay, and to bring in this information into here, so this is geometry that we need to bring in now, not a volume. Okay, so the way that we're going to do that is use a sup geometry dop. Okay, and here in the sub path we find that out that we just created. So smoke source, out tail vel, grab that. Okay, and then to apply that to a pyro setting, we use a field force and connect that up. Okay, now we can see it. One thing we need to do in here, well, in both of these, is set the default operation. So for all of these, to set always, as this is a, you know, it has animation. Set always, so all of these will be set to set always. And in here, I think we don't need to do anything else. That's ready to go. It's just basically bringing in the geometry. And here you can see the false attribute is called force, but ours is not called that. It's just called V for velocity, right? And then we can see a visualizer as that's working now. So the guide, just turn off the guide there. And I think I'm going to push the strength up of this, okay, to 50. So it has a bit more oomph, a bit more push behind it. And that should work for us. I also want to, let me hide these. There we go. I also want to change this visualization a bit. Let me just get a few frames of simulation. Let me just go to frame 20, minus 20. There, now that we got a few frames, if I press spacebar and F, we can just about see we got a little bit of smoke there. I'm just going to change the visualization on this. It's kind of, let me give myself a bit more space there. And we shouldn't have to re-simulate because it's just the visualization. I'm going to turn off density, turn on the multi-field, go into my multi-field density scale. I'm going to push this up to 10 so we can see more. I can't see it there. Oh, density field. There, now we can see it. Great. Can play around with the shadow scale, you know, but lots of these can have quite, it's not doing much. Well, especially within the sim in here. Oh yeah, we're seeing something. I'm going to drop that down. Quite subtle. And you can see you can play with the min and max values here. You know, they all have an effect. I'll leave that at 0.5. And then for the color, I don't think this would matter, but I would normally use the density as well. And set this, I'll just set it all to gray. I'll just delete this one. You can see it's all turned black now. And then just turn it to this kind of dark gray. Something like that. Looks fine. Okay, and then I think what I'd like to do is a flip book, but outside of here so that we can see. But the problem is now if I visualize this, oh no, I thought we would see the points as well. So that's good. So we'll go back to the first frame. Well, frame minus 25. Jump into the camera. Okay, set this to smooth shaded, and I'll save it and run a flip book. Let's go into full screen as well. Run a flip book with this. Minus 25 to 100, that's good. Okay. Right, so I've just got a few frames of the flipbook done there, and I feel like the color is kind of not doing it justice. I found before that when you add a dark color to your, you know, your volume in the viewport, it kind of gets cut off there, and you can see we're kind of losing a lot. But I feel like there is density there, so I'm just going to delete that and go back into my DOPSIM here. Okay, and then I'm just going to set this to white so we can see it. All right, and also I want to try and get a bit more velocity out of that. So, and not here to the actual the source itself. So if we come here, let's visualize the velocity. Right. I'm going to actually turn it up. So I'm going to multiply this by 10. So get a bit more going on there. Maybe to this curl noise, let's do a bit more turbulence. There we go. All right, let's turn that off. Go back here, so we can see the actual helicopter moving. Let's do that. So we can actually see it moving, yeah, behind the smoke, you know. Right. So smooth shaded. Let's get, yeah, high quality lighting, full screen, and let's do a flip book of that. Again, I probably won't do the whole thing, so it'll take a while. Just do a few frames, and then so we know it's looking good, and then we'll cache the whole thing out.